Hello, my name's Derek, and if you were anything like me, you probably spent some time in the 90s playing a game called Wing Commander. And if that is you, I hope you loved it as much as I did, and I hope you'll also join me in today's video where I make this art piece in dedication to that series that I love so much. Okay, so after scouring the internet for probably the better part of an hour, I ultimately settled on this screenshot, and the reason for it was I've always loved the shape and design of the Kilrathi ships. And since this has kind of a simple, easy, how do I say it? It would just be real easy to do this one. This little segment here of the heads-up display showing your lock target, and I just love that it's got different damaged areas. I wish there was maybe some yellow. I suppose we could go ahead and do that in some spots, but I might just leave it as it is. But just as a heads up, I guess, I wanted to show the screenshot itself that I used so you have an idea of where I got the shot from. Alright, here we are in Fusion 360. I've actually recorded this segment ahead of time, and so this audio is after the fact, so I'm going to try to speak as it plays here. So if it seems off a little bit, it's because it's kind of an awkward thing. But we have the image pulled up here, Fusion 360, and I went ahead and started doing this a little bit the night before here. So we've already got a little bit of a head start, and I'm just showing you here what I've got done. And we'll start sketching here. I'll just let it run for a minute here while I talk, just to give you an idea of how I was going about it. I had tried to get vectors from this using Inkscape, which I've done before, but I just can't seem to get it to do as what I want it to do, which you can see here is just a straight sort of outline. But with Inkscape, I just couldn't find a happy medium anywhere. So ultimately, I just decided that Fusion 360 will certainly take a little longer, but I think in the end it'll just be worth it because it'll give me the result that I'm looking for, and I just won't have to fight trying to figure out why this, that, or the other thing doesn't want to work, and just to get the ball rolling, I guess. But essentially, you're seeing here, I'm just boxing things in, and I'm trying to keep everything somewhat uniform to where it looks concentric to everything. You'll see where I'm clicking the corners to try to catch that snap point, and then I'm just dragging them over. The only time that doesn't necessarily work is when you get these larger segments here, which I'm actually starting one right now. So in this case, let me try to remember. I don't remember if you'll see now I'm just doing boxes, but eventually I switched to doing line. So I'm just drawing one line at a time, which is certainly more tedious, but you know, in the end, it still gets the job done. And this wasn't that big of a project that I really needed to worry too much about it. So I think at this point I will shut up and I'll just go ahead and skip, not skip, but I'll do a time lapse here and speed things up, because overall, picking up from where the video started, including the bit I've already got done, this is about 40 minutes here. So with that being said, I'll speed it up, hopefully not too fast. 40 minutes can be condensed pretty small, and then you can't really see what's going on, but I also don't want a 5-minute time lapse, you know. So we'll see how it plays out, but I think it'll all work out in the end. Okay, here we have the finished sketch, and what we'll do with this is we'll send this to the Laser Cutter X Tool software, and we'll get everything set up. We'll put a piece of painter's tape, blue painter's tape. I have some 4-inch wide, so we'll have to scale this, and we'll just have it cut along these lines to cut out each pattern. And as we go, what we'll do is we'll peel, let's say, the red section, everything that's red. We'll peel that out, this whole section here, once it's cut, and we'll paint that red. And we'll probably have to tear the whole strip of tape off and retape it, put it back in the laser cutter, and then move on to the green section. So on and so forth. But I think in the end, it's going to be a really cool project. I'm kind of unsure if I want to do the black as a background or if I want to use the wood piece to sort of just use the natural wood color, or if I want to paint the back black. Because if I do that, I'll paint the whole thing black before I mask it, which may help these colors stand out a little more. So I might just do that. The other thing is I do want to give this a border of some kind. I don't just want a square. And I haven't come to a consensus on what to do there, but with that being said, I think we'll prep our workpiece and get the laser cutter ready, and maybe we'll jump into the Xcarve software. Alright, here we are in Xtool Creative Space, and I actually forgot that I had done this last night, but one of the results here, this was what we got from Inkscape using Trace Bitmap, and this image, I just couldn't get any better than this result, which it still technically did what I wanted, but there's a little bit of this. I don't know why it did this. You can see it's clearly blue all the way through, but and then we got some of these sort of not quite square, what do you call them, trapezoids, I think. But and then this Xtool software does have a trace feature, but again, I just couldn't find the right setting to get it to work for me. So ultimately, I did this in Fusion, as you just saw, and so I will get that loaded up here. All right, here we are in the great outdoors. We've got a scrap piece from another project I just did off for funsies, but we are going to go ahead. I'm going to paint this black. We're going to be quick about it because it's cold out. I'm already getting cold, and I don't want to be out here. All right, that should do her. All right, before we jump over onto the laser cutter, I wanted to show you where we're at. We've got our blank workpiece here. We painted it black, and we've got the masking tape on it, and I think that'll work just fine. I went ahead and I actually cut a sample piece here. I wasn't sure about the size. I was a little worried it might be too small. Let's see if I can't get this to focus. I think I need a little better light. That's a little better. But I was worried those squares would be too small, but I think that'll be just fine. And that square box was just to get an idea of the scale of the whole thing there. I didn't want to go too much bigger than my tape allows, but I think I should be able to get potentially 3 out of this, which I'd rather do 3 because I'm going to do the colors with my airbrush. The black was just a spray can, but I'll use my airbrush for the other colors, and it will be more tedious because, as I do the reds, I'll have to just peel each section off, and sometimes it's going to be little squares, and so now I'll have to do 3 of them, but I think that'll work in the end. I can give 1 or 2 away as a gift. So that being said, let's go ahead. Let's move on to the laser cutter. All right, so here at the laser cutter, and I just wanted to talk about my method here and my setup. It's really important with this when you have to, cut something out, pull the tape off, paint that, and then remask it. and come back and cut it, you want to be able to line your part back up with a pretty decent level of accuracy here. And what I've got here is a spacer piece of wood. It's 3/4 by I think 1.5 inches or so. And then I've got this piece here that I've machined out of in the laser cutter. And that's usually I would put that in the corner alone without this spacer piece, but I needed this spacer so I could get this well within the eye of the laser cutter. But you'll see if I try to rock this, there's not a whole lot of rock. So I feel really confident that when I take this out and put it back in, it'll repeat pretty well. And usually what I'll do is I'll push down and try to get that even and not use a whole lot of force because I then want to slide it over. And I just always try to repeat that process. But with this, I don't think I really need to worry because I can't rock it too much. So with that, I think we'll go ahead. Oh, and the aluminum foil I use for when I cut things out. I don't know if you can see some of these marks. Looks like you can. That's just so it doesn't cut into this mat here, which I've never honestly even used. But if you do cut into it, it stinks. And this laser won't cut through the aluminum foil. So with that, let's go ahead, let's get cutting. I don't know how well this will show on camera, but I will get the footage nonetheless. All right, welcome back. Here we are, fresh off the laser cutter. We have 3 of them. And one thing worth noting, if you're going to do projects like this, it does work out pretty well, but I have to say that bleeding, when you paint or you peel and you paint, if you put it on too thick, the painter's tape does have a tendency to kind of curl or get sort of like wavy. And if you put too much paint on, it can bleed under. So that is a concern, but also I don't think I'll be able to get it here. But you can kind of see some of the edges, I think from the heat of the laser, they curl up ever so slightly. I think you can kind of see one right here. And so what I'll do, I'll use just a board like this sample piece that I did earlier, and I'll just sandwich them. You know, here's just sandwich them and just give them a good press. I don't like to take like a credit card or something and swipe, you know, because I don't want it to catch that lip and peel it up. So works pretty well. Sometimes I might put some weight on it and let it sit for a while. I'm not looking at the camera at all, am I? But I'll do that, or yeah, I'll put some weight on it. And especially after you paint, you have to let the paint dry before you go and remask and do another area, because if you go too fast and the paint is wet, you will pull up some of the grain, and I've had that happen. And that can quickly ruin your project if it's a color you've already done. So let's go on to the next step. All right, it's me again. Here we are with an update. This is our progress as of the next day, midday. It's a little different than what we left off with. So long story short, the reverse side here is the original side. You can see a little bit of red paint there. I think where I left off was I had cut the squares out and I was going to paint it, which I had done that and I recorded it all. But while in the process of that, we had lost power here at home, and I ended up losing my progress on the Xcarve or the Xtool software, and I'm just was not going to be able to repeat what I had done. And so I kind of just had to chuck it up as a loss. But what I was able to do was to break this up into sections to where on the first run, it just cut out the red red portions. So now I don't have to go and peel every single little square off in between because I don't want overlapping tape. I could just leave it, but if it overlaps, we could really get some, not run out, what's the word I'm looking for here, where it bled. You can see here on this edge. The edge is kind of irrelevant, but yeah, you can actually see in the lettering there a little bit of bleeding. So we're going to go ahead, put this back in, and we'll do the green. Okay, here we are with the green bits cut out. We'll go ahead, give that a spray. We'll probably give it 2 light coats. I don't want to spray it on too heavy. I did that with the red on the first coat, and I think that's what caused it to bleed a little bit. And sometimes getting too close. Actually, that may only need just the one. No, we'll need 2, but we'll take this inside, let it dry for a little bit, come back out, do it again, and then we'll peel it off. All right, there we are, all said and done with the green, and it's looking pretty darn good, man. It's super cool. I love watching stuff like this come together. What am I seeing there? There's like a spot. Might just be the camera, I don't know. But it's looking pretty good. We are getting a little bit of bleeding in spots, but I'm not too worried about it. You know, something I'm just doing for fun. But I am a little concerned about, I wanted to put a border on these, but if you look at how close that's getting there to the edge of the ship there, I'm not sure what I'll be able to do there. I wanted that to maybe be black, but just kind of in my haste and having to restart this morning, it's so easy to oversee something like that. But I think we'll go ahead, we'll move on to the blue areas. There's some blue down here and in this midsection here. And those are a couple of different colors we'll have to do for the last few parts. And so we'll have to use the airbrush for that because I just don't have those colors in a spray can. So with that being said, I'll get this taped up and we will move on to the blue. Okay, here we are at my makeshift paint booth. We're going to be using some sky blue today. I think that'll work just fine. So let's go ahead and we'll do one coat and then another, and just like before, I think it'll turn out great. All right, here we are in the last part. We have to paint here. We're going to use some olive green for the lettering here. And you can see we definitely have an issue where the T and the R, not on all of them, but it comes up right about to the edge of the tape here. So what I may have to do is try to get a strip of tape, kind of just like it is here, but well enough on the other side of this paint to where I can do both. Get some kind of border on there. And I guess this is maybe the universe's way of telling me to go ahead and get that 6-inch wide tape I was thinking about getting. But with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and get this painted, and that should wrap up all these finer details, and we'll take a look at it once this part's done here and it's all dry. All right, so here we are at the end of this project. I went ahead, I bit the bullet, and I just cut it out square. I was hoping to do more of a border, but I was kind of at a point where I've got about 2 days into this, and I was just ready to wrap it up. And for something I'm just doing for myself, this is just fine. I have the other two behind me there, but ultimately I think this one came out the best. We do still have some bleeding. I went ahead, I sprayed a urethane on there, so it's got a little glossiness to it now. I'm trying to get this just right. It looks like it's blurry to me in the video, but maybe that's just my eyes too. But I'm happy with the way this came out. Yeah, I think it's great. I debated putting a little hole up here in the top so I could maybe hang this, but consider this my ode to Wing Commander, a game which I I loved it so much growing up. I didn't play so much after Wing Commander 2, but it was just something at that age. What was it? I think it was something about 1990 when it came out, and that I was maybe 8 years old, and it just captivated me. The music, the art, the feel of it, it was just that era of gaming was just wonderful. So glad I could be a part of it. So, with that one, I want to thank you if you made it this far. And I really hope this is something that you appreciated as much as I did. It's just really cool. And I may come back to this again in the future and do this again if may get some wider tape so I can do a little more, approach it a little differently and with maybe a clearer head. But with that, thanks, and I hope I will see you on the next video I make.